So you're confronted with this apparently difficult subject to draw, and inevitably there's a small degree of panic. How much information have I got in front of me? Well, no need to panic really. Start to think about the problem and how you break the problem down. The first thing to consider is that, if we were to stand next to this object, how high would we come up the object? What we then can realise is that what we're looking at is a rectangle. And this rectangle, obviously the top of the rectangle is tapering off, bottom of the rectangle tapering off to meet our horizon somewhere over here. At the moment we can't really see the side of the building, but the side of the building we would know would be kind of tapering off in this direction, ultimately to reach the horizon over here. Now what's happening over here is that we have a section where this structure is coming out and this structure is coming down. So we've now got our kind of ellipses, ellipse here and ellipse here. We've got something similar happening up here, but we won't deal with it for the moment. Roughly speaking, if we were to think about the center of our ellipse coming up to here, we have the central line, and then we can look at the profile of the onion dome and the profile of the onion dome on this side, and then we can understand a bit more the contour as it moves around. Over here we see something similar, so again we have the ellipse, we have the center line, we have a curve on one side, a repeated curve on the other, and we also have then this structure up here. We have a line which is obviously not as steep as this line and a little bit more angled here, and we start to then get these spaces. Now if you look at this, there's not actually the same number here, so we could count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually I have got enough in there, and we could start to think about the kind of curvature structures inside here, giving us a sort of sense of the feel of the object. At the moment we've got a dark side, so there's a little bit of light and shadow cast. We've got up here the window, and we've got another window, and then again we've got some darkness in here. We'll do a bit more of the tone later on. At this point this moves over to here, they've got a different direction of light, and again this structure here in front of the onion dome sort of flattens out for a while before it becomes curved again, and we've got another onion dome over here. Over here we've got another onion dome, so again little ellipse, apex, curve either way, same again. By this stage these contours are getting quite shallow, and what we can start to do is use a kind of simplified language to try to indicate the structures on here. We can now look a bit more fulsomely at this curve, and then again coming from those the uprights, and then the structures inside those uprights. Over here this starts to kind of disappear somewhat in terms of the scale, so we can kind of begin to indicate that. Now what we've got really here at the moment is we've got a very, very loose schematic kind of drawing of the pavilion. A loose perspectival sense of view. We could obviously, if we wish to now, change the size of the brush, change the opacity of the brush, and we could therefore start to see the tone. So at the moment you can see that this side is away from the light source. Inside here we get, as I say, those little shadow areas. We've got some shadow over here, and we've got some shadow over here, got some shadow down here. It just happens that there is this light catching these columns through here, and then again we've got shadow over here. We've got shadow over here. We could, if we wish to, add a small amount of colour. To give us some kind of sense of a context. But obviously what we've done is we've drawn a sort of quick understanding of the object in space. Now if we go in, what we can see over here is that this structure is pretty much the same as this structure, which is the same as this one, which is the same as this one, which is the same as this, and which is the same as this. So actually, how many of these do we need to draw? Well, actually, we only really need to draw one of those. So looking at it quite carefully, changing back in terms of a point size. We might just start to think about what that shape is. We might start to zoom in again. And we might start to think about this individual shape or this individual shape. And so we can start to look at the idea of a drawing made up of lots and lots and lots of little bits of visual information. This is another drawing of the pavilion. And what you can see is that I've looked very carefully at the small details, picking out from the pavilion the key details. Again, what I could do with this drawing is then make links from my small studies, identifying where this information's come from. Remember, of course, that an object that is symmetrical, perhaps one only needs to draw one side of it because it's very easy to flip it afterwards. Again, remember that if you're drawing something like a window frame as a front elevation, it's relatively easy to put it in perspective afterwards.